Hello all, it is Paulinejo back again for another video. Thank you so much for stopping by today. If you've clicked on this video, you're probably interested in learning more about the online experience with Walden University, or you may be interested in pursuing a master's in social work or both. I just want to note before I jump in about my background that you can now download all videos on YouTube using the YouTube Premium app, and you can listen to this on the go where you may not have Wi-Fi, so that might be driving, on the train, working out outside, or whatnot. By the way, if you don't want to hear about my background, it is fine. I will go ahead and put down below where you can start listening to this in regard to specifically Walden University. So in 2014, I earned my Bachelor's of Social Work from a private university in Washington, D.C. Absolutely loved that in-person and small university experience. Post-graduation, I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into social work, and I also, back in 2014, that was the time that makeup was really starting to pick up and it was booming. I saw a work opportunity to pursue makeup, so I pursued makeup for a year. I'm still freelancing, but after that year, I decided I'm just going to go into freelance and I'm going to really pursue social work. I worked for 2 years, I worked in 2 different coordination positions with 2 different Title I schools, where I helped create and monitor psychosocial programs for the students. Afterwards, I decided I don't want to do meso work, I prefer micro work, so I went into the case management side of things. I then worked in a public agency that's for-profit, and I assisted families who were on TANF to find jobs and to be more financially stable. Eventually, I moved on from that job and landed another case management job where I also assisted people with finding employment, except I worked specifically with a homeless prevention organization. And in between these 2 case management jobs is actually when I started with my time with Walden University back in 2017, and I was part-time at the time. I also want to note, in my first round of graduate school applications, I was rejected by all schools. It was very devastating, but I was like, I'm going to keep working and I'm going to reapply again. So I reapplied and I got waitlisted to a couple of schools, and then the one school I fully got into, I wasn't ready to move out of state. So this leads me to my second point of, is Walden right for you? As I just mentioned, in my second round of applications, I didn't want to risk not having a school by waiting for the waitlisted schools. I got rejected from some schools, and then the one school I did get into, I loved this school. I had a personal connection to it in my past, but I did not think that I was ready to move out of the city. And so I was like, how can I continue the job that I like, or the path that I like right now, and still go to school without applying for the third round? So I decided, let me look into some online universities. Obviously, with any major life-changing decision, you're going to think about the pros and cons. So for me, I just thought, I have nothing to lose. Let me just see if I get in, and then I'll make a decision. I did think about the flexibility. I'm always on the computer anyways. I love YouTube. I love watching Hulu or Netflix. And so I was like, maybe I'll be okay being online and being on the computer for extra hours in the day already than I was. So I definitely considered, if online would be appropriate for me. I would say if you want to test it out, try part time and try just one quarter. Try one class, two classes, three classes. See if Walden may be right for you. I would definitely recommend giving at least 1 to 2 quarters before deciding if Walden truly is for you. So, this actually brings me to my third point of how you can survive Walden and what my experience was like my first year versus my second year. As I mentioned before, transitioning from working to working and being a student is a major transition. At least it was for me. So you can imagine my first year was incredibly rocky, from the classroom to speaking with my professors during their office hours to getting it right with financial aid. It definitely is a major learning curve. I personally took about 2 to 3 quarters, and each quarter is about 12 weeks or 3 months. So I would say it probably took me about 9 months to fully adjust to the Walden way of things, graduate school, working, and just being in an online system where, again, as I mentioned before, at the time there really wasn't a lot of online learners. So it was truly a lot of loneliness. It was a lot of trial and error. But at the same time, in a positive light, it brought me so much independence, and it taught me really how to be flexible and just overall a little bit more patient. So I would say to survive Walden, you definitely want to understand that you are going to need your own self motivation. No one is going to motivate you, especially other than you, not even your professors, because they have a higher than normal like list of students, and they most times teach multiple classes. So you have to be incredibly independent. You have to be creative. You have to be very patient. But I believe that it is so worth it. And that was also another reason why I wanted to put up this video, is because I just feel like there just wasn't a lot of videos on YouTube or just information in general on the internet about Walden University. So I do hope that this will be helpful for you. Fast forwarding to my second year, my first year actually took 2 years because I was part-time, and in my second year, that is when I decided to be full-time. Now, this is also a very interesting time in global history to be talking about the debate of online versus in-person school due to the pandemic. Again, I've been in school for almost 3 years, and I'm going to graduate in 2 quarters, so I've fully adjusted. But I do understand that online university really is not for everyone. I think it also, other than the things I just mentioned, I think it also is part of your personality. Some people, they just cannot motivate themselves, and I'm not at all saying that I'm the best at it. Sometimes I really do need to be pushed, but overall, the biggest two components or three components rather, is patience, self-motivation, and like a really strong will, as well as the not ability to be independent, because I've had to learn so much along the way, but you have to also have the will to want to be independent. You have to know that your professors are not going to be as accessible as they would be in person. You have to know that your classmates will not be as accessible as it is in person. You have to know that you can't call IT and they're going to be able to fix whatever's going on with your computer, your iPad, or whatever you're using to be studying online. You have to really have the will to be independent, which is why I think my second year has gone way better than my second year. And this actually brings me to my fourth point of how you can manage your tuition payments while being in an online school. I would say the first thing, looking back on my experience, that you should have the ability to do or the ability to improve on is your ability to be an auditory learner. Now, I myself, with a little bit of disclosure, do have multiple learning disabilities as well as physical disabilities. So I always knew that auditory was not my strong suit. And so when you are speaking with your financial advisor, I highly recommend, if you can ask them, hey, can I record it? That way you can re-listen to it. If they say no, maybe you can take notes down. And then also, I would recommend to really, don't be afraid to ask them to repeat themselves to make sure that you have the numbers correctly. Depending on your program. Now, the program that I'm in, and I think all of the Master of Social Work programs are like this, depending on if you're in a quarter system or a semester system. So a quarter system is 12 weeks, semester system, I believe, is about 15 weeks. And this is me just approximating, but definitely double check online. But the money that will be distributed through your FAFSA, which I imagine you're probably going to take out some type of financial aid or get some assistance, the money will distribute differently in a semester versus a quarter-based system. Now, again, as I mentioned, I'm not an auditory learner, and I'm also not that great at numbers. But if you do crunch the numbers down, depending on how much you get rewarded, depending on your scholarships, as well as other fees that you might have to owe out of pocket, you may have to pay every quarter, which is again every 12 weeks, or you may have to pay every 15 weeks, which I know that might not sound like a lot, but 3 weeks to come up with money to be able to get from one quarter or semester to the next is a lot of time, especially as I imagine you're probably full-time working, or you're probably working at the same time as being with Walden. So I definitely recommend to pay attention to when your payments are due. In general, just like if you were in an in-person school, always pay attention to when like FAFSAs are due. Pay attention to the date that like your assistance will be dispersed. And I will tell you, and I don't want you to be overwhelmed, but financial aid will come off aggressive as much as online as they would in person. And so I would recommend to definitely just as long as you know that you are demonstrating that you have the ability to pay for your school, you'll be okay. And I forgot, because I will admit I got so much, actually all help from my parents in my undergrad program. Also, I was in person, but I know with Walden, I can't speak for other schools, but with Walden, if you have what is called a bursar hold, which means you have outstanding payments, they will not let you move on to the next quarter or semester. So that means if you just owe so much and you're not showing satisfactory payments, they won't let you move on. But if you have a document hold where, say, you still have a balance but you're showing satisfactory payments, they will allow you to move on to the next quarter or semester. Thanks for bearing with me if you are still here with me. I know that this is probably a lot to take in. But the fifth point is just some general MSW tips and tricks that I had to learn myself that I want you guys to have to be successful. So, first tip is get a calendar or get a planner, whether that be electronic or whether that be paper. I'm going to be honest with you, even if you're one of those people that say, oh, I remember everything, this university is designed for students who most likely, more than not, have to work 30 hours or more. So it is a lot to manage, working almost full-time or full-time, and having to go to school. So week by week, in your planner, in your calendar, whatever, write down what you have to do. Month by month, write down like every single week. So like it can be confusing. So the first day is Monday and then the last day is Sunday. So it's like day 1 to day 7. So it will make your life a lot easier if you have some type of planner, and do this right when you get the syllabus, not as you go, because once you're full swing into the quarter, and once you miss 1-2 assignments, it's really hard to go back. So get a planner, get ahead of it, and write down or type up what you have to do each week, each day, each quarter or semester. So a specific tip, if you are an MSW student, I can't speak for other disciplines, but for social work, I highly recommend, again, as I mentioned, you have to be very independent, and you are actually paying less for the price of less people helping you. I learned this the absolute hard way, but you know that going into social work, you will have 1 or 2 internships, depending on if you're in the 1-year track, the 2-year track, or whatnot. So I am telling you, right before, even if you don't know what quarter or semester you are starting your internship, right when you start school, you got to start looking. Because it's not like a traditional in-person school where you already have partnerships. You have to go out into the community and you have to create the partnerships, and you will get rejected a lot. In my first year, I probably applied to like 20 internships and heard back from 2, as opposed to if you're in person, you have that extra person that you are paying for with your tuition to go out and get you the internship. Now, of course, they still need you to independently interview, but with Walden, they don't even have partnerships in the community. Most communities don't even know about Walden or online learning. So regardless, get ahead. Do not wait even 2 quarters or 2 semesters to start applying for internships. Start as soon as possible because it is a long process. All right, so my very last tip is something that I am passionate about, as I have lived with a chronic pain disorder for almost 10 years, which can be very draining. So that is, make self-care moments a priority. What I don't mean is the glitz and glam that we often see on social media, like the expensive bath bombs or the spontaneous trips to Europe. I mean, you should schedule on a weekly or even daily, if you can afford, moments where you are taking care of yourself. As you know, in social work, we love our clients and we are passionate about helping them. But realistically, we can feel depleted as a result of high stress or secondhand trauma that just naturally comes with the industry. So if you wait to do something self-care related after the quarter is over, after the semester is over, or when it's ending, I can promise you you'll burn out really quick, which is something you want to avoid. So to give examples, on a daily basis, you can plug in your planner, time to watch 1 episode of your favorite show on Netflix, or maybe it's taking 5 extra minutes in the morning to add your favorite skincare to your face. On weekends, you can do a half day if you have a lot of homework. Do a half day with your family and take them on a trip to the farm, or take your partner to your favorite diner after you attend your religious duties. Whatever it may be, schedule it in your daily or weekly life, and do not wait until the end of the term to take care of yourself. And most importantly, do not feel guilty for taking time for yourself. Remember that this degree is going to help you, your family, and so many people. So you have to take care of yourself.